All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachakodash, the honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, and salutations to the elect. This is Brother Lawyer from Great Millstone, Miami, and the topic I want to go into is going into keeping the faith. Okay, all right. You know, now more so than ever, a faith is going to be key. Okay. All right, especially coming into the times we're coming into, man, we're about to find ourselves in some crazy situations, okay? All right, where the Lord is going to try us, okay? With the things that are getting ready to take place in this world, you know? Of course, we know that the Lord's going to lift up a standard and, deliver us during the time of Jacob's trouble. But we will find ourselves in situations where we are tested, okay? Where we are proven, the Lord's going to prove us in the furnace of affliction, okay? All right. And we may be affected by these different things that are getting ready to take place on the earth. You know, we hear about wars, rumors of wars and economic collapse, this drastic, shift that's taking place on the earth by the hand of the elite, which is really being orchestrated by Yahweh Shai Shai. All right. To some degree, we will be affected on personal levels. OK. All right. And that's not to mention the persecution that those who, profess faith in Yahweh Shai Shai, all right, are going to have to face and endure. OK, so with all of that in mind, the main thing that we, really have to be focusing on as far as building up, in these times is building up our faith, man, and keeping the faith that Yahweh Shai Shai has given us. OK, because faith is the only way that we're going to make it out of here. All right. Because it's going to come up a point in time where we're not going to have access to the videos. We're not going to have access to, potentially being around brothers and going to camp. And, you might not be around, your sword or your blue letter Bible app or whatever. Right. And it's going to be between you and Yahweh Shai Shai. All right. The status quo is getting ready to change significantly and drastically and abruptly for all of us. OK, so we have to really hone in on believing in the Lord and keeping the faith in the midst of the various misfortunes that we, may have to go through. OK, which the Lord said, the scriptures say through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom of the Most High. And the scriptures also say enter ye in at the straight gate. So we know that we're getting ready to undergo difficulties, that we've may have not ever faced. OK, in its truth. All right. So we have to make sure that we're rooted. OK, as much as possible in this faith. Now is not the time to be disenchanted. Now it's not the time to be scared. Okay. All right. And, hey, now's the time to, lock in even more. Okay. All right. Because at the end of the day, the only way we're going to make it out of here and be saved is through faith in Yahweh Shai Shai. So I just want to touch on that in this lesson. I was just meditating, today, this evening and, asking the Lord, what he wanted me to go into. And this is the topic that the Spirit gave me. So I'm going to start here with Luke 18:1. It says, and he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. And that's important too, man. OK, prayer, man, praying to Yahweh Shai Shai to keep us, to keep his spirit upon us, to give us the strength to endure. All right. Yahweh Shai even exhorted his disciples, man. OK. All right. How watch and pray that you do not fall into temptation, man. Okay. All right. So we got to pray, man. Apostle Paul, in the book of Ephesians, it says how he was asking the church to pray for him, that he might stand boldly, all right, in the face of his persecutions. Okay. So we have to pray ourselves, and we have to pray for one another. We have to pray for the body. We have to pray, for the fellow believers, man. Yahweh Shai Shai give us the strength to endure. OK. All right. And so prayer is an important thing. OK. All right. To as far as, Yahweh Shai Shai intervening for us on a spiritual level and on a carnal level. OK. All right. Which I'm going to just go pull some of those scriptures that I quoted. All right. Let's see. All right. This is Matthew 26:41. It says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay. All right. And it says, and he went again the second time and prayed, saying, Our Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. So, Yahushua exhorted his disciples to pray. Okay. All right. That they don't, fall or yield to temptation. And, we got to pray that Yahushua give us the spirit to endure what's coming down, down the line for us, man. Okay. Because we're all going to be affected, man. And this flesh is weak. Okay. But the spirit is willing, man. But we got to pray Yahushua that he give us the spirit to endure. Okay. And not to falter. Okay. All right. There's actually a version of it. Let me see here. In the NLT, all right, Matthew 26:41, it says, keep watch and pray so that you will not give into temptation. So we have to be spiritually vigilant, man. Satan is out here like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. But the scriptures say what? Resist steadfast in the faith. Okay, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished by your brethren that are in the world. Okay, it says, for the spirit is willing, but the body is weak, man. So you got to pray, how about Shemel Shai, to resist the flesh, man. Okay, resist the temptation of the flesh, resist Satan, resist the spiritual forces, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, man. Okay, but against spiritual wickedness in high places, man. So we got to fight these spirits with prayer. Okay, pray to Yahweh Shemel Shai, call upon his name, man. Okay. All right. And if you think, we're going to just be going into these times, moseying around and, skipping to my loo, you got another thing coming, man. All right. We're going to be in situations where we really got to cry out to Yahweh Shemel Shai, man. The scriptures say the souls of the just complain continually, and an innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me. All right. So we're going to be crying out to Yahweh Shemel Shai. So, get in the spirit of praying, more praying to Yahweh Shemel Shai as much as you can. I try to, as much as I can, pray for myself and pray for brothers, that the Lord keep the spirit upon us to endure. Because at the end of the day, when it's pencils down and the lights go off, okay, and when things start really getting real, okay, and the things that we talk about really start manifesting and start affecting us, at the end of the day, what's going to keep us firm is faith in Yahweh Shemel Shai, man. And faith is a gift that comes from the Most High. We have to go to him for all things. Okay. All right. Even Yahweh Shai prayed to the Father, okay, for deliverance and for the strength to endure, as we read here in Matthew 26. So it's not a thing that we can just overlook. Okay. This is a very, very serious thing. Okay. Now this is Ephesians chapter 6. And verse 10, it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Okay, so we got to trust in Yahweh Shemel Shai and trust in the power of his might. And the Lord, we believe in the Lord as far as his divine power, as an external force that he intervenes, into our lives and into the world with to deliver us and protect us and things of that nature. Right. OK, but also what's part of the power of the Lord's might is putting on the whole armor. OK. That's part of being strong in the Lord. OK. All right. We got to do our part, man. We got to, of course, we trust in the Lord, believe in Yahweh Shemel Shai, but we got to do our part on a spiritual level to make sure that we are, making ourselves ready to the battle, which is what the scriptures say. OK. All right. It says, put on the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. All right. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Okay. So we got to put on the whole armor, because we're facing spiritual forces at work, lurking. Okay. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, and above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. Okay. All right. So we gotta keep the faith, man. The faith is the most important thing, man. Okay, remembering what the word says, man, and applying the scriptures, keeping your mind on salvation and praying, man, praying for yourself, praying for brothers, man. All right. And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel. OK, so we got to pray to Yahweh Shai, that the Lord put the spirit upon us to speak the mystery of the gospel when need be, boldly. OK. All right, because scriptures do say that we shall be brought before rulers and kings. OK, it says, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, and that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. OK. All right. So this truth, the way we've been operating in this truth is about to go front and center. OK, which everybody really already talking about us anyway, on these, alternative news and social media, podcast niggas or whatever. You got celebrities that have talked about the truth. Everybody know about us. Really, everybody know about us. Everybody know about the Hebrew Israelites. Everybody know about Great Millstone. We done went viral many times. OK, but it's about to be on front page news, so to speak. OK. All right. So, we're going to have to stand before kings and rulers and give the testimony out about Shemal Shai. All right. So we got to pray to the Lord to give us the spirit to do that, at whatever the consequences in the flesh may be, we have to pray, Yahweh Shemal Shai, give us a spirit to endure. Okay. Verse 2, it says, all right, so going back to Luke chapter 18, verse 1, it says, and he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, there was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man, and there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, though I fear not God, nor regard man, but because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith, and shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he suffer long with them? Okay, so we're gonna be in situations to where we calling out upon the Lord to deliver us, man, from unjust, wicked situations, man. Okay, calling out the Yahweh Shemal Shai, man. Okay, all right. And we're gonna have to, be long suffering in a lot of situations. Things not gonna be fair. You're not going to have access to your comforts, but we gotta keep the faith. We got to keep praying. OK. All right. It says, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth. OK. So in the midst of these trials and tribulations that are getting ready to come down the pike, the pipe, hey, we got to keep the faith, man. You got to call upon Yahweh Shemal Shai, man. OK. All right. That's how we're going to be able to escape these evil times. OK. All right. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 9. And verse 7. It says, and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Okay, so that's how we're gonna make it out. That's how we're gonna be able to escape by faith, man. Trusting in Yahweh Shemal Shai, man. Okay, we're gonna be in situations where we not gonna know what the outcome may be in the flesh. Okay. All right, whether we might live or die, but we got to keep the faith in Yahweh Shemal Shai, man. Might be separated from brothers, might be separated from your family. You might be separated from your wife, your children, women. You might be separated from your husband. Okay, all right, but you got to keep the faith in Yahweh Shemal Shai, man. Okay, so that we don't have to deal with the ultimate judgments that's coming out here, man. Which the Lord already promised that He gonna keep us anyway, if we do what we got to do, man. Okay, in these times and in the times to come, man. We can't just be doing it, right now, and then when shit hit the fan, then you start having doubts and you turn coat. Nah, man. We got to keep the faith until the end, man. And we're gonna have to endure. The Lord already promised us that we're gonna eat, drink, and be sustained. Okay, so to hell with what Esau's talking about. We got to trying to force people to take the micro C hip, man. Okay, the Lord's going to keep us, man. He's going to make sure that we're taken care of, man. But we got to make sure that we, maintain the faith, okay, and don't get weak, okay. Let's see. And I do want to bring this out too. I'm going to say it again, man. Pray. Pray to Yahweh Shema Shai. That he give us strength. Okay. All right. Be prepared. Oh, I'll bring this out. This chair of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, because I wanted to bring this precept out too. Okay. Verse 13, it says, and now about his faith, hope, and charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. Okay. All right. So, faith, hope, and charity are the things that are going to be, paramount in the times that are to come. Okay. All right. These three things are remaining: faith, hope, and charity, man. All right. So we're gonna, those attributes, believing in Yahweh Shema Shai, believing in the kingdom, having expectation of Yahweh Shema Shai, that the Lord's going to deliver us, the promises, and also loving on one another, man, because that's the commandment that we receive from the Lord, that we should believe in Yahweh Shai and that we should love our neighbor as ourselves, man. All right. So be prepared to have to lean on brothers and for brothers to have to lean on you, be prepared for all these things, It's not going to, in some cases we might have to be separated from one another, but in other cases we might have to, really rely on one another, man. And as a body, we have to have that synergy, that camaraderie and understanding. Okay. All right. But the main focus that I'm really focusing on in this video is faith, man. Keep the faith in Yahweh Shema Shai, man. All right. That is going to be the most important thing. Okay. As Yahweh Shai said, shall he find faith on the earth? Okay. So keep the faith. That's what's going to allow us to be sustained. You feel your faith getting weak and wavering, emotions start rising up, tears rolling down your eyes. You're afraid, you're anxious, you're angry. You know what I'm saying? You're frustrated. Pray some more. Okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Just because you feel those emotions. All right. That's a natural thing, man. You read the Psalms, you read about how King David, was crying, and the different psalmists and poets, and they was crying out to the Lord. They was, frustrated and crying out against injustice. They was angry. They was anxious. They was sad. They was scared. And they was still praying to Yahweh Shema Shai, man. So the Lord, scriptures say what? Casting all your cares upon him, for he careth for you, man. Okay, which is leads me to what's that? 1 Peter chapter 5. Okay. All right. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 7. It says, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Okay, which the word care there goes into anxiety. Okay. Okay. Let's see. No, that's not it. Verse 7. Give all your worries. Okay. All right. Casting all your cares to throw upon, to place upon. Casting all your cares. The word care is merimna, care or anxiety. Okay. All right. So, those emotions going to rise. That's why it's written there, casting all your care upon him. So you're going to have things that you care about, what I'm saying, that you anxious about, that you concerned about, you worried about. The Lord said, cast it upon the Lord. Cast thy burdens upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee, man. Okay. So we're going to be in situations where the cares, of our flesh and, those emotions start rising up. Pray to Yahweh Shema Shai. The Lord give us strength to pray. If you were another brother, you might be in a situation. Hey, where 2 or 3 are gathered in the midst. I'm in the midst. Pray. That's an even great time to pray right there, man. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour, whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished by your brethren. In your brethren that are in the world. Okay. So you got to resist Satan by what? By faith, man. Okay. All right. And, you know, when you go to Luke chapter 18, it says this parable that Yahweh spoke that men ought always to pray and not to faint, man. So you want to know how to not faint and keep the faith? Pray. Okay. It says it, man. Yahweh spoke that parable to the end that men might always pray and not to faint. So for that very reason, this is the very reason that Yahweh spoke the parable, man. Okay. You want to know how to resist Satan? Pray Yahweh Shai, man. You know, resist the flesh and, you know, emotions. And I don't know how to pray to Yahweh Shai, man. Okay. Verse, Luke 18:1 again, it says in NLT, one day Yahweh Shai told his disciples a story to show them that they should always pray and never give up. Okay. So, and then how does the parable end? Shall he find faith on earth? So if you want to know how to keep the faith and endure these times that we're coming into, okay, pray to Yahweh Shai, man. Okay, that's how you keep the faith, man. That's how Yahweh Shai was strengthened when he was going through different trials and tribulations. He was praying. Okay, we read about 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Okay, you know, when Paul was in distress, he was praying. The church was praying for him. You know, Ephesians chapter 6, they were praying always. Pray. You know, that's how you resist steadfastly in the faith, man. Okay, it's going to come to a point. It's not going to be about the deep breakdowns and knowledge we have. It's about whether or not you believe in Yahweh Shai when you call upon him, man. Okay, it's going to be about whether or not you believe in the Lord, man, in the face of death and danger, with your life being threatened, potentially, you know, being misused, mishandled, killed. You know, it's going to come down to things like that in certain situations, man. All right, it ain't gonna be every situation, but we gonna be tried. Trust and believe. We gonna be tried, each and every one of us. Okay, on some level. Okay. All right, you want to know how to stand? Pray. Yahweh Shai, call upon his name. Pray for strength to endure. Pray for deliverance. Pray for mercy. Okay, and pray that you submit to the will of the Lord, and the Lord's going to eventually show out. You know how he shows out, how he chooses to. Okay. So, you know, that's the lesson, you know. I don't really think I got anything else to say. Let me see here, man. All right. I'll close out with this. All right. This is 2 Timothy chapter 4:1. It says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them that also love his appearing. Okay, so the point of keeping the faith is so that we can receive glory, salvation from Yahweh Shai, man, and be delivered up out of here, man. Okay, that's how we're gonna be saved up out of here. We're looking for salvation. We're looking for the reward of the kingdom. You know, rulership, dominion, being joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. Keep the faith, man. And understand that the point of keeping this faith is so that we can get saved up out of here, man. Understand what the reward is, man. Okay, so, yeah, you know, that's the lesson. Lord willing, it was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone and citations to the elect. Shalom.